Hi everybody, it's Miss Lynn from Mill Creek Metro Parks. Welcome to another edition of From the Archives, the Stories of Mill Creek Park. A real treat for you today. I'd like to introduce you to our oldest scrapbooks that we have in our collection, dating from 1921 all the way up to 1950. And the focus is on the Youngstown Nature Study Club, sometimes just called the Youngstown Nature Club. Now, the club was a local chapter of the American Nature Study Club and was organized on March 25th of 1922. Let's take a peek inside one of the scrapbooks. You can see their logo there. And look at the drawing. Just how beautiful. And here is a poem written to Volney Rogers by his brother Bruce Rogers. And Bruce was one of the first park superintendents. Beautifully written. Look at the illustrations, and it was illustrated by Lindley Vickers, who was a park naturalist from 1947 to 1970. So the park has a big connection to the Youngstown Nature Study Club. Let's flip another couple pages here, Dr. Jim. And here is a typed report from their organizational meeting in April. And the purpose of the club was to stimulate interest in and appreciation for nature in all her moods, and to promote and arrange field trips during the year. For that very first meeting, the membership was about 75 people. They had decided to cap that at 100 members. And it was said that the large gathering was due to the interest and the initiative of a Miss Elizabeth Northrup, a teacher of science at Grant Junior High School, and she then served as the secretary. The superintendent of schools at the time, Mr. O.L. Reed, was elected president, and Superintendent Reed was very strongly in favor of instruction in nature study for school children, and it had actually established a department in a school that he worked at in Louisville, Kentucky, when he was superintendent down there. And one of the most influential members of the new club was a gentleman by the name of Mr. George L. Fordyce, and he was a prominent businessman here in Youngstown and one of the best ornithologists in the state. So let's flip through a couple more pages here, Dr. Jim, and take a peek. You can see how fragile everything is. Now, one of the things that the Youngstown Nature Study Club did was that they offered certificates in different areas of nature study, with each area having different levels of achieved expertise. And you could get certificates in astronomy, birds, ferns, forestry, geology, entomology, the study of bugs, and something I had never heard of, Dr. Jim. It was called limnology, and I actually had to look that up. And it's the study of biological, chemical, and physical features of lakes and other bodies of fresh water. Now, take the bird certificate, Dr. Jim. For the first grade, you had to be able to identify 20 local birds by sight and song. You had to own 2 bird guidebooks, and you had to do other observation hiking trips throughout the park. To go to the next grade up, you had to be able to identify 50 local birds by sight and song. So each level took you a little bit more into the expertise of that particular area. Quite interesting, quite interesting. So here is actually where it spells it out with regards to all the different grades and what were required in order to pass that grade. And they gave written tests as well. To belong to the club, the yearly dues were $2, with $1 going to the National Club and the other one to help defray expenses for local field trips. The very first year, they did a field trip to Mill Creek Park to study the geology. They had a bird day in the park. They did a tree trip with John Davy of the Davy Tree Company. And they had an evening with the stars where they studied astronomy. Now, park naturalist Lindley Vickers, who we mentioned a little bit earlier, he was a member of the club. And as part of his membership, then he started writing a daily column for the Vindicator called A Nature Diary. Maybe you know somebody who was a member of the Youngstown Nature Study Club. According to Dr. Melnick's book, The Green Cathedral, they were active up into the 1970s. I'm still doing a little research on them, so there's more to be continued on the Youngstown Nature Study Club. Hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about some of the stories of Mill Creek Park, and we hope that you will join us again for another segment of From the Archives next time. Thank you much. Bye-bye.